democracy is the worst form of government other than all of the others.
Let's try to keep it concise.
I remember when I heard that before. I'm like, that is, yes, you're right.
Write the darn thing down. He said that low. It's log it.
So we still get the it's the 16. Is that just what?
I like the phonetics.
She needs one of these little wood things.
I'm fine.
Right, yeah, I think the people that are
Look at that show.
deserve to have some thought.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
We've already done it.
Yeah. Yeah, cut and paste.
I'll call the school board meeting to order. And you would rise at this time. The first graders from Monroe will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Cool.
Come on up to the front.
Okay.
Cool. You start.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Monroe. Just a reminder, we did have some people arriving later. If you would like to speak tonight, there's sheets at the back table that you need to fill out and then bring it up, and we'll get you in the public input session. Public input.
Roll call.
Yeah, okay. We can do that.
Yeah, if she says it, yeah, okay.
She's in charge. Go ahead.
Sooner we all.
Christopher Abel,
Here.
David Bowman,
Here.
Biff Hansen,
Present.
Ann Holson. Here. Mary Wilkie Blahnik. Present. Keith Shaw.
Here.
Carrie Trask.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. For public input, we appreciate public input. Public freedom of speech is one of the things that's very important in this country. But it's also important to respect the people you're talking with and about. So we all have different opinions. We want to hear those, but please, when you do it in a respectful way that doesn't personally attack anybody, but gives your point of view. And that's probably the most important thing about that freedom of speech in this country. So that being said, we'll start. And Sarah Weinberg, you are first.
All right, Sarah Weinberg, 919 Jamar Road, Cato, speaking as MEA president, a teacher, a staff member, a parent. Woofda, you guys have some tough decisions tonight, but I know you're not the only school board making tough decisions. There are numerous referendums out there, other consolidations, other buildings being closed. And really that won't be fixed until how we fund public education is changed. I want to let people know that your staff is going to work hard to support each other during this process. We know you will give us grace, but we all know change is hard. But making those changes is probably harder. I know the students aren't as anxious. They're worried about what playground they'll be on. Your staff members just want to know where they're going to be. So good luck tonight. Thank you for your considerations, and let the decision making begin.
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have Steve Kleinfeld.
Steve Kleinfeld, 8109 Northheim Road, Newton. 920-323-5393. Superintendent Dennis and MPSD board, I'm here tonight to talk about elementary school closings. Trying to give a little bit of background and history about maybe why we got here tonight and points of discussion may come up later on that you may want to pursue. I was on the Community Facilities Committee. I was hired at the principal at Jefferson School in 1990. One of my important roles there was liaison between Grant Bus and the district office regarding anything that had to do with busing, including route changes. I did that for 9 years and was transferred to Jackson School in 1999. Early 2000s, we had too many students at Jackson to accommodate them. Change of boundaries had started and students that we had to cause, with boundary changes, moved to Stangl and Madison. Jefferson was also having some similar concerns with enrollment, and some of those students were moved to Madison. The lines that were created then still are in place as of today, as I know. That created upset families because they were, like the presenter said, want to know where their kids were going to be. But in Jackson's case, we had an unusual situation in that families are going to be split. We actually had some students finishing up their years at Jackson, while other members of the family were moved to Madison or Stangl. And with the proposal that's up for the school board now to consider, at least looking at K-4, all those families, students will be going to the same school. 2010, attendance numbers started going down. By 2015, Jackson had lost about 200 students since the early 2000s, and Jefferson enrollment was down as well. In the meetings on December 1st, some people mentioned an easing of closing schools this time. And probably the time to do that was back in 2015 when we were losing enrollment at that rapid rate. At that time, you could have closed Madison, had the students that were going to Madison that are in the Jackson attendance should return to Jackson, and the ones that were going to living there that were in the Jefferson attendance should return to Jefferson, and you would have an easing at least one school at that time reduced. Past boundary changes were just right-size schools. We hear that term right now is what we're trying to do is right-size the schools. Differences, we had an overpopulation then, now we have more schools than students. Hearing this information from the meeting, 4 things had come to mind for me. And I made me thinking about where we should go with this. Great. All right, well, first, I was considering the boundary changes as to why were they created. There was different things that were said. There was part of it's finance because of the cost of the renovations and repairs. There was the try and balance student enrollments. There's balanced student free and reduced lunch. And so those kind of resonate with me, but the one that occurred to me the most was the balancing of the students and the transportation. And that the one point was made that we're putting our students in schools that are closest to where they reside. And when you take if you took and drove a radius around Jefferson, Franklin, and Jackson schools, you would probably have circles that almost touch and interact among each other. That is a very heavy populated and residential area. And so if you look at taking the same radius, either Madison or Stangl, you can only draw them about a mile halfway because you have the lake. And if you look at the residential area, particularly out by Stengel, it's very sparse compared to those three schools which I mentioned. So with that, I just thought about, transportation was another point. How can we get the students closest to their schools, staying closest to their schools? At one time during the transportation of students from Stengel, to Stengel, when I was at Jackson, we had students on the bus getting picked up in the country area, being brought into the city. On the way into the city, they'd be picking up some Jackson students. Bus would be dropping off the Jackson students at our school, and then continuing the bus on the way to Stengel. With looking at the data that the administration has had available, I'm just kind of asking that they maybe relook at that again, because wouldn't it be nice that those students that were coming from the Stengel attendance area could just be staying at Jackson rather than continuing out to that furthest building in our district.
Steve, if I could ask you to kind of wrap it up.
Okay, so with that said, I'm just again asking the board to look into some of the alignment that they've already discussed, trying to keep a neighborhood school that's an anchor school in the community. And I appreciate all the work you've done. It's not that it's not forgotten and not that it hasn't been seen throughout the community. It's a very tough decision. I appreciate you taking it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did anybody else come in later and wish to speak? Anybody else? For a second time? Yes, come forward.
My name's Alessandra Schwartz, and I live 212 Huron Street in Manitowoc. I guess I'm aware of the issue, and I've been of closing both Madison and Jackson School. And unfortunately, I was trying to be a little more up on all the nuances of the situation, and then to come to the meeting this week and had a debacle. So it's been a bit of a challenging week, but I guess my concerns are the costs involved and with the schools, if there's actually been adequate time to make an investigation into the costs of if you would close Madison and you would close Jackson School and put the kids at Stengel, and then move the fifth graders to Wilson and I assume also Washington. I understand the schools have some issues, possibly even one of the issues is the cafeteria situation with the schools. Is that correct?
I didn't hear what you asked.
I understand that each entity, each school has some issues with it in terms of, is it suitable today to move the students like to Madison or to Jackson School? And it was, I guess, Stengel's being targeted. Are one of the issues cafeteria issues on hand? Okay, that was.
We don't usually answer questions during this time.
Okay, I'm sorry. Pardon.
But those are things that have been looked at, but that's
Okay, I
an
apologize.
issue right
This
now.
is my first rodeo.
You're doing
I'll learn. Probably fair. Anyway, I just want to pose the question, has there been time before you take a vote, has there been adequate study in terms of the modifications that need to be made at Madison School, at Jackson School, and a thorough investigation before you decide to close these two properties and move the kids to Stengel School? but you don't answer questions.
We'll be discussing that, yeah. We'll hear the
I
answers.
would encourage the board to take time to do that and make sure that all the questions have been answered before there's a hasty decision to close 2 schools. I do think that it matters to this community to have schools on the north side. I think that it's very important when you have young families, new people moving to town. There are families that want to put their kids in public schools. And it's important once they get in the public school system that they stay in the public school system, that you don't lose an attrition rate to the parochial schools. I think that's been a trend. And I think public education is important. And I think when you have families moving to town, they are going to want to see schools on the north side. I think it would be a real mistake to make Stangl School your flagship on the north side, because the school doesn't present like Madison. It doesn't, Jackson presents very well like Madison. It has a nice schoolyard. It's not run down. They're nice facilities. I think when families look at that, they would be more apt to make that consideration as a positive check mark to move to our community. And I think that's rather important. So I would encourage the board to try to keep one of those 2 schools open, because I think they are head and shoulders above the Stangl opportunity. That's my 2 cents.
That's good.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Anybody else have a sheet filled out to speak? Anybody else going twice? Anyone else wishing to speak for a 3rd time? Not seeing anybody, we will close public input and move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda tonight anybody would like pulled? Second chance, anything? I'm looking at you, Mr. Abel.
Of course you are. Now you see this time.
For a 3rd time, anybody want anything pulled? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Move to approve, is second by Mr. Bowman. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. And the consent agenda is approved. And from that, we move on to the report from the student representative. Jade, you are up.
Mind if I just, so everyone, this is Jade's first meeting. She is, essentially serves as the alternate for Lulu, who couldn't be with us tonight. So Jade Lagatima is a junior at Lincoln High School, and she is going to be the person here when Lulu can't. So this is her first meeting. I'd say let's welcome her. It's all yours.
So since it is my first meeting, I beg you all to bear with me, but this is the report that I have tonight. As we enter the winter months, we also enter the winter sports season. Here's what we've seen so far. The boys basketball team has begun its season with an unfortunate loss to Plymouth. And the girls basketball team has also started their season with a loss to Arrowhead. However, we are looking to, get some more morale up, try to get some more wins. Our artistic sports, the gymnastics, dance, and cheer team, which I am on myself, have all attended their first competitions these past 2 weekends. I've heard all good things about all of the artistic sports. The cheer team's doing rather well. Hockey has begun their season at Notre Dame. And to wrap things up in the sports categories, wrestling has also begun their season with a meet against Kimberly. And with new snow comes new beginnings. So we congratulate our track and field star, Hallie Schroeder, for continuing her career at the University of Minnesota Duluth. And continuing with new beginnings, Lincoln welcomes a new poetry club. I myself have not been to any of the meetings, but I do have a couple of friends, and I've been told that they are very insightful meetings. And since this is a heavy topic tonight, I wanted to speak a little bit on the issue about closing some of the schools, because I feel like it would benefit the entire school board and the community to know what some of the high school students think of the issue. I haven't heard too much because, as you all know, it doesn't directly impact the high schools. However, a lot of people in the high schools do have younger siblings who attend many of these schools. There's a lot of confusion going on because a lot of high school students don't take the time to educate themselves on what's going on in the community. They hear a lot of things from their parents. Sometimes they'll see it online. I myself have just recently learned about the issue, but I do hear from people that are informed that they're just a little bit worried for their younger siblings. There's obviously a lot of confusion. Voting hasn't happened. And I think that from the high school community, we're all just kind of, holding our breath, waiting to hear more about the issue. And that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I was at a conference this past week, and one of the sessions that I was in, it was about student representatives on school boards. It's nice to know that we're a little bit ahead of some places that you are welcome here, but you can't ever speak. So we're a little ahead of that.
Yeah.
And if you would ever like to say anything during a meeting or be part of the discussion, just raise your hand and you'll be recognized. The other thing that I thought was an interesting idea that we might want to consider is they've also opened up positions on their committees. At least they have the students sit at committee meetings when you're talking about curriculum, you're talking about facilities and other information. So that might be something in the future that we can think about. It is against state law, though, to let them vote on it. It's elected. Which might be bad because working with the high school kids and the kids, sometimes they think very well. Much better than I did at that age. Yeah. All right. That being said, I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent report.
Thank you, President Hanson. I've submitted the written report to you. There's a couple of highlights, but I want to spend the majority of time on our guests here. So we have a student learning showcase with us today. I'd asked if Tiffany Schley and her 5th grade leadership students from Riverview could come on up. And they're going to share a little bit about their program and how it's impacting them as leaders and their school community. So welcome, Tiffany, and thank you, students, for your participation and leadership at Riverview Elementary.
I'm Tiffany Schley. I'm the 4K and TK school counselor at Riverview. And these wonderful students are 3 of the 14 5th graders that are a part of our leadership. And so they do 3 different jobs. These 13 of the 14, including these 3, help with our 4K students in the morning. So we start school at 8 a.m. They start school at 8:40. So they give up that morning time. They come early, and from 8 to 8:40, they help in the classrooms with 4K students. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we also do 1st grade buddies that they can sign up for during lunch and recess. And they also deliver the weekend meals to the classrooms in a confidential way where they just drop the bags and then the teachers take it from there. So those are the 3 jobs. So I wanted to ask them 2 questions for you guys. First of all, what do you specifically do to help our 4Kers in the morning?
What we do to help the 4Kers is we get their winter gear on, like their snow pants, their snow boots, and their winter jackets. Then we get them ready to go into class.
And in class, they do centers, and what I do for centers is I look for needs, and I like if anyone's off track, I bring them back on track. And if a teacher assigns me to a certain student, I'll help the student with like what the teacher told me they need help with.
What I help with is like help them with like putting pom-poms on like a number chart and erasing and tracing numbers.
And before I ask them the second question, introduce yourselves.
My name is Ian.
My name is Sophie.
My name is Bryce.
And second question, do you enjoy doing this in the mornings, and how do you think that this group helps you personally?
I enjoy this, and this group will help me in the morning is to maybe if I want to be a teacher, it can help me with my future job. And it's fun to hang out with little kids.
I am, and I think this helps me because it can help me with my leadership skills, and it can help me problem solve.
And it can also help like kids problem solve. I enjoy it because it helps me learn to be patient, the littles to be patient. And it teaches me to take my time with the little kids and to take their time as well.
Any questions?
Questions? Great job.
Hey, thank you. Our leaders of tomorrow, learning at a young age, how to help others, how to be kind, how to help build a learning community. So thank you very much for that program at Riverview, and thank you, students, for sharing your experiences and your learnings. You did a great job. Next, we have, as a continuation of our strategic leadership and organizational effectiveness, part of our strategic visioning, as we've done the past couple of months, we're finishing off our 100-day plan presentations to the board. And tonight we have Franklin, Riverview, Madison, and Lincoln. So I would invite Franklin to kick things off, and Mr. Heller, come on up. Oh, you're all doing it. Okay, great. You can.
So I'm Matt Heller, principal at Franklin, fourth year at Franklin, 15th year as a principal. Here to talk about our 100-day plan. I was going to bring some of my team with me, but given the busyness of what's going on tonight, I decided just to come myself. So it's just me. The goal's got three parts, and I'm sure you guys have already heard about this from the other schools. Academic goal first. The district led us through a very helpful 2-day session looking at forward data, broken down by itemized analysis. Let us kind of look at, I'm going to go through our bigger forward data in a little bit, but this took us through kind of linked to standards, where were our students struggling the most, both in reading and math. All of the schools, ourselves included, said that our biggest concern was the standard called R2, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. But really, it's about main ideas, supporting details, things like that. Students are asked to read short passages, come up with what the main idea of that passage is, and that was a struggle for them. So we wrote a goal that we're going to have our students at 85% proficiency by the time they take the forward in April. Some of those key action steps, again, our building and leadership team was at these days to come up with the goal in the first place. And then they helped me presenting this to our staff and organize these goals as part of our building leadership team during the year. Professional practice goal is linked to this. Again, it's a district focus, but it's very helpful for this goal, working through this PLC process and professional learning communities. If you want to assess something like this, that's not necessarily assessed frequently throughout the year, you're going to have to create your own common formative assessments, which PLCs are very helpful in doing. So our teachers have been working since the second week of the school year. We started in the summer, didn't meet during the first week of the school year, but met every single week thereafter, actually twice a week, working on creating these common formative assessments and making sure they understand what this standard is actually asking students to do at each grade level. And again, I'll give you a little more information about that in a couple slides. Behavior goal, we track our major behavior through Infinite Campus and suspensions. We would like to see a 10% reduction in both of those over the course of the year. We've had this goal every year that I've been there. Last year, we were able to do this actually by a much larger number than 10%. We've done a lot of the same things. We actually think our tier 1 and tier 2 systems in our building are in really good shape. So we've done some of the same things, expectation round at the start of the year, making sure kids understand what the baseline expectations are. Working with the new program, Character Strong, at the start of the year, rolling that out. And a lot of emphasis on recognizing positive behavior, because one of the easiest ways to change behavior over the course of the year with students especially elementary students, is to focus on that positive side, not the negative and consequence side of behavior. So we do that through a program called Awesome Slips that we draw every week that the kids get really excited about throughout the school year. Going back to the standard a little bit, just so you guys understand the language, the standard starts in kindergarten, literally goes through senior year of high school. So I just put some examples up there so you can kind of see what it looks like. Starting with kindergarten, obviously the students are just learning to read. So they're learning how to retell stories and share key details. And then I've got the standard at 3rd grade, the standard at 5th grade, so you can see what it looks like a little more from the students are actually taking the forward exam, because that's 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So again, they're talking more about summarizing texts, bringing in key details, key supporting details. And that's what our staff are working on, making sure the students understand better going in. And again, that standard we scored more like in the 30 to 40% correct rate, depending upon the question, whereas most of the other standards were more like 50 to 60%. So this jumped out at us as a place we needed to focus our efforts on. Speaking of forward data, these are our 3rd through 5th composite scores. So basically our school composite scores the last 4 years in both reading and math. Reading has been a little more up and down. Math, we've seen an increase every single year since 2022, which we're very proud of. In fact, we're approaching like 50% proficiency in math. We were actually recognized in 2024 for being a school of distinction based on those results. So we're very proud of that. So hopefully we'll get back on track with reading this year with this focus on this particular standard. Math, we think we're in a really good place with. We're continuing a lot of what we're doing. It's been a strength. Couple last things to add on the academic coaching side, which is a new position this year. Joy Jirakowic, our new coach, has been working through cycles with every single member of staff. She's already worked with over half the teachers in a lengthy coaching cycle. And she thinks based on participating in those PLCs and looking at some of the data they collect in each cycle, we're already seeing some results of that. PLC meetings I'm a part of every single week. I try to attend at least 3 per week, depending upon the week. And I've seen a lot of growth there. I thought we were already in a good place at the start of the school year, but teachers are really seeing how this work connects to the work that we need to do in the building. And that's been really good to see. And last but not least, on the behavior side, feel like overall school culture and climate are a good place. As I said at the beginning, our tier 1, tier 2, we think are in really good shape. I think have been a strong point over the last few years. We do have a group of students that we've struggled with this year, but that's kind of true every single year. And we kind of see how the strategies we're using are helping these students. And since I actually wrote this PowerPoint a couple of weeks ago, we've seen a lot of gains with those kids and are feeling pretty good going into the holidays. That's my presentation. I think we're going to go through each one and then maybe hold for questions at the end, if that's okay. Or
Sure. Good. Well, anybody have any questions for Franklin? Seeing none, go ahead.
All right, my name is Stephanie Cordy. I am the principal at Madison. I typically start my day with a friendly joke, so I'm gonna do that for you too. What do you call a snowman with a 6-pack? An abdominal snowman. So, all right, Madison Elementary's 100-day plan. My building leadership team consists of myself, Angie Blaschka, Michelle Weaver, Philly Ortega, Amy Williams, Ashley Thielbar, Crystal Gorelli, Dylan Johnston, and Julie Severance. So going ahead to our, there we go, academic goal and action steps. So Matt kind of alluded to this during this summer. We, at our data retreat, analyzed the data from the board exam. The data showed us that the R2 standard was consistently a challenge for our students in grades 3 through 5. And this information drove our academic goal and action steps that we put into our plan for the first 100 days. So our goal reads as follows. During the 2025-2026 school year, all certified staff will provide targeted instruction of the R2 standard, which will result in 85% of students being proficient as measured by data collected from administered common formative assessments. So many words, right? To provide a little clarity around the R2 standard, the overarching statement found in the Wisconsin State Standards for Reading states that students will read and comprehend a variety of complex literary and informational texts for many purposes. Our team felt it might be helpful to provide some clarity with that. So we created this graphic, which is going to spin. All right. So you can see the continuum of learning with this standard through the grade levels. So the kindergarten level, the expectation is that with prompting and support, students will retell stories, share key details from the text. And then it moves to grade 1. Students will identify the main topic or central idea in a text with guidance and support, retell important details. Grade 2, as I'm sure are picking up, it's getting more challenging as we go further here. Students will summarize portions of text in order to identify main topic or central idea and key details in text. On to grade 3, students continuing to summarize portions of a text to determine a theme or central idea and explain how it is supported by key details. Grade 4 and grade 5 are pretty similar. Students will summarize text from a variety of genres to determine a theme or central idea and explain how it is supported by key details. So now, how do I go to that? All right. Our professional practice goal stated that by the end of this school year, our PLC team, so professional learning teams, will unpack standards, identify learning goals, grade and implement common formative assessments, analyze data, and adjust instruction to demonstrate student growth on standard R2 that connect to the board exam. I did link an example in here as well of one of those CFAs. As you know, we are in the first year of using the new curriculum, being a reader. And inside that curriculum, there are some common formative assessments. So my 3rd grade team is using that as one of the ways to check on student progress toward mastery of that R2 standard. And then they also are working to collect data, and this is just an example of a data collection sheet that they use. What they do with this is then they bring this back to those PLC team meetings and have great discussions about progress their students are making and adjust their instruction accordingly. Next, our behavior goal. By the end of this school year, our certified staff will reduce disciplinary student removals and the percent of students with suspensions when compared to last year's data. Some of the things that we've done so far are to roll out our school-wide expectations, posting signage, establishing classroom rules and procedures, and also focusing on positive behaviors. We implemented something called our, our SHIPS Compass Award. And that's something that we highlight weekly with our students. In October, we learned about EduClimber, a way to document behaviors and things. We've been having intervention meetings to be able to tackle some of those maybe questionable things, not questionable things, but provide support to teachers when they're struggling with students, whether it's academically or behaviorally. And then continuing to review the progress of those students as time goes on. Other data used to support goal setting, we looked at access testing. The access test is our English language proficiency test that measures student academic English language skills. And all ELL students from Madison have shown growth every year. We've looked at Ames Web Plus in grades K through 3. We had 34 out of 186 students, or 18.2% of students, that are on personal reading plans. And then what that means is that in grades K1, 2, and 3, they were focusing on specific areas to help them to increase their reading proficiency. For an exam, we made many significant strides in closing the achievement gap for our English language learners in ELA, as I mentioned. The focus must now shift to math and other areas. So we were able to decrease significantly our ELA gap from 45.8% to 30.9%. Our ELL math gap increased, unfortunately, a little bit. Our gender gap decreased as well from 35% to 30%. So our data clearly shows that our literacy focus is having a powerful impact in what we're doing, especially for those ELL students in ELA. And now we are planning to turn our strategic attention toward replicating the success in math and ensuring our interventions effectively address those growing gaps in other areas. Additional information. As the principal, I provide PLC coaching and support. So I am visiting those PLC team meetings and helping them to move forward in that process, recognizing strengths, helping them to look specifically at student work and make adjustments to their instruction accordingly. Our intervention team I mentioned is using data to provide academic and behavioral support. Our school counselor provides social emotional learning support. Our dean of students is working on providing support in the area of behaviors. Coaching, being a smaller school, I had asked we had a dean/coach, and I had asked her to help primarily with behaviors, but we were able to get some support from the instructional coach at Monroe and from Riverview. So my teachers are also receiving some coaching from those wonderful people. One last celebration, which can't be denied. According to our state report card, Madison Elementary exceeds expectations. So that's something that we can be really excited about. And then my last slide, at Madison and at all the elementary schools, we are United Districts. So thank you so much for your time and for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any Madison questions? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. Mr. Abel helped me understand a little bit the R2 standards, the reading standards, those standards that you presented to us. Thank you for that, by the way. Those are the standards that the tests are based on, correct?
So when we analyze the data, the forward exam data this summer, it was very clear that the R2 standard was the area that we were lacking. And so we want to build that up already in kindergarten so that by the time they're at third grade, they're very, very strong there.
Excellent. So your goal, it looks like all the elementary goals, 85% proficient at that, on those standards.
Yep.
Okay, so if a student doesn't make that 85%, what does the building have in place to get them to that 85%?
And that is why we are focusing on that during our PLC time to really target those things or that standard. As I mentioned too, we have our lower students, the ones that are struggling, receiving extra interventions as part of their PRPs.
And like in a pull-out program or
Yes.
exercise? Okay.
Yep, so it's something in addition to.
Okay, and then you continually test and reteach and test to get to that 85%?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that CFA. The other principals have talked about that prior to, and it was good to see a sample. Do the kids take that paper and pencil, or are you recreating the electronic sense that they have on the forward test?
I think they are doing it in a variety of ways. So depending on the grade level, of course, I think at the lower levels, of course, it's more interview. The plan is to then, well, I'm sorry, not the plan. I know that in first grade, they are working to getting them to write more just because of getting their thoughts down on paper. And then in third grade, that's the one you saw, that one is paper pencil, and fourth and fifth, I do believe their plan is to go to electronic, yes. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Lincoln.
Short one over here, one more.
Yeah, I bet.
Got it, that's, yep, I'll look up this. That's perfect. All right, I'm Courtney Malinowski, I'm the principal at Riverview, and this is our 100-day plan. I'm here today representing my whole navigation team, Audrey Bencher, Jessica Brewer, Abby Brixis, Brittany Coronado, Stacy Dow, Jamie Grunwald, Jennifer Kranick, Amy Lizaway, Kelsey Morrow, Alexa Olson, and Jordan Weber. We have representatives from K, 2, and 4, so we want to get all the grade levels, and then many of our support systems within the building as well. So try to get an all-encompassing navigation team. All right, so similarly to Franklin and Madison, we dug in and looked at our data this summer. We found a great need to also target the R2, which is that summarizing standard. That was the area that showed the most need on the forward exam. So you can see that our incorrect percentage was way too high for our liking. And that was the highest out of all of the standards that are on the forward. So we also chose R2. In addition, this fall, we looked at the number of students that were scoring below that 25th percentile and helping us recognize that we have a need to target that reading area as well. So using Ames Web, our TK through 3rd grade students had 29% on a personal reading plan, and FastBridge showed us that our 4th and 5th graders had 32% scoring below the 25th percentile. So we had some work to do. Our academic goal was to focus on that R2 standard, which they described as the summarizing. So summarize a portion of the text to determine theme or central idea and explain how it's supported by key details. It's both an informational and literature standard, meaning it spans across nonfiction and fiction. So that's nice to be able to target it kind of all year long through the different genres that the students are reading. Our goal for the first 100 days is that 70% of students will be able to summarize as measured by the common formative assessments developed by the grade level PLCs. Those look very different from grade level to grade level because they were created by the teachers. And they first started off right before school started by digging into what does R2 mean to them? Because at kindergarten, for example, it's very different. It's kind of thoughts of like first, next, then, or beginning, middle, end. And in fact, what they did for their common formative assessment in September was they had pictures of the beginning of their day and the kiddos put them in order. And that was the first step in thinking about what are the main details of their day. So it's kind of cute actually to think about like how that all starts versus where they end up with as a senior in high school summarizing a book. It's crazy how they grow. So some of the things that our staff did to ensure that our students were growing was unpacking the standard for their grade level. And they continue to meet every week with their PLC teams to make assessments and look at the data, discuss the findings, and then use that to create small group instruction or adjust their instruction within their whole classroom setting based on what the kids need. And we've really found a lot of great connections between this goal and our general curriculum. And it's been really nice to look at how it just keeps cycling for us. And we can tie that into little ways that we maybe wouldn't have noticed before, but it's like, oh, there's another opportunity. Let's practice it again. There's another opportunity. We have anchor charts all over the place reminding kids of how to summarize. So it's going all throughout their day. So to tie in, our staff are working on developing themselves professionally to help with this goal. Within the first 100 days through the PLCs and professional development sessions and coaching, teachers are engaging in integrating science of reading best practices into the daily instruction and collaboratively unpacking that R2 standard. So within the first 100 days, the teachers wrote the first 2 formative assessments. One's already done and the other one they're working on right now. So we're still within those 100 days, which is the baseline and the mid-year. And all teachers are receiving walkthroughs during their reading instruction from me, also from our coaches to help them with their practice. And they're implementing those best practices aligned with the science of reading to make sure that our students are able to access the learning that they need to do. Switching into behavior, we took a little bit of a different approach. So our goal for behavior is that during the first 100 days, the students that scored in the basic category on our essential behavior standards rubric will increase their classroom participation appropriately by 30% as measured by teacher observations and tracking tools, up to 80%. So we created a rubric based on some of the greatest difficulties that we see with our students within the classrooms. And the first one was responsibly participating in class. So we dug in as a whole staff to what does that mean in the classroom? And then from that created a rubric. And then we looked at every student and scored them on what they're showing us within their day. And what's really interesting is we found that actually 51% of our students were below proficient in how they were engaging within their day, which is interesting because it directly correlates to how well they're learning. So we have to do things differently to make sure that our kids know how to responsibly participate and that we're doing things that are engaging our students. So we've been doing lots of work with digging into what does that mean? How do we look at the lagging skills that our students may have in terms of engagement and participation and build those? And how can we collaborate to find strategies that help them to be more successful? Something that I've found very impactful is during our intervention team meetings when we're looking at an academic struggle or a behavior struggle, we also look at how well are they engaging. And oftentimes we see that they're below proficient. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Like if they're having a hard time participating or engaging, it makes sense that they're having a hard time learning. So we're working on that. Other things we have going on, like Stephanie and Matt said, we have our instructional coach that's meeting with everybody in our school. We're into our second round so far. I'm in all of our PLCs providing coaching and support, and in the classrooms driving that data and that instruction. Our navigation team, our leadership team, and our intervention team meet very frequently to help look at data and provide support to our students. Our counselor and our dean are working very hard on all things Character Strong and supporting our students. And our EL teacher, reading teachers work really hard on providing support and professional development. And we have some teams to engage on Character Strong and family engagement as well.
Any questions for Riverview?
This is a question
Yes.
for all three and maybe Director Schultz. How are among the different schools or the principals, how are you encouraging the shared learning across different bricks and mortar? Open-ended to any one of the four of you.
So we actually, twice this year, have done PD by grade level across buildings. And so rather than do like Franklin meets together, Madison meets together, one of us takes, there's the same number of buildings as there are grades, or administrators as there are grades, so each of us is responsible for one grade level. So it's been really useful to pull together the whole fifth grade across the district, the whole fourth grade, so on and so forth. And I think teachers got a lot out of that as well. So we've done that twice. Is that right? Yeah, twice so far.
They do a great job too of getting together. Today we got together and just everyone chipping in on what our PD is going to look like for this next week. We've got a full day of PD and then also planning already for January's PD day. So as a team, we're really looking for that kind of cohesive, making sure that we're not leaving anyone out. Everyone's kind of getting the same thing and giving teachers opportunities to learn from each other.
Thank you all.
Thank you to all your work and sitting in on PLCs. I'm sure that's a lot in a busy principal schedule. That accountability piece is important.
It's a lot of times it's impactful to get teachers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Chris, you?
I just wanted to say I'm happy to see that all the schools don't have the same goals in PLCs. All the schools don't have the same approach to goals, even when they're similar. And all the schools are using their own path to chart behavior things, because that is so, and I don't want to sound all squishy, but that is such a relationship-based thing. If you think you're getting it out of a book, you're not. It's got to be what you're doing in your building. So thanks.
I got another question for basically all the people here in the elementaries. the new reading program this year that's been implemented by our school district, are you seeing that this reading program is supporting your efforts of raising those R2 standards? Are they directly related, our reading system, to these standards to help get those scores up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm seeing the summarizing connections popping up very frequently within our team. So it's part of the curriculum the way it is. They build in reading strategies for kids to help understand how to read, comprehend, and then eventually summarize. But we can also make those very intentional connections authentically as well. So they tie in great to our efforts.
Okay. The comprehension check that Stephanie showed is, that was straight from being a reader. It's an optional piece, but we found it really useful from the get-go. So rather than having to write your own Common Formative Assessment, you can pretty much take directly what being a reader is giving us and administer that to help with that. So,
yeah. Good, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate all you're doing in it. It sounds like it's a real grind in some ways, but I'm mostly, I'm mostly concerned in, modern education about stimulating curiosity and the wow factors of learning. Does that come in with all the data and all that? I mean, when we get so data driven, it's like, we may not be so inspirational. Is there a conflict there?
I think personally, we have very passionate educators that know the art of teaching, and they make that shine every day. They know their kids, like we're talking about relationships, and they know how to spark that interest and that engagement.
Okay. That's reassuring. Good answer. That is a good answer. Anything else from the board? Go ahead.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And last of these presentations that we've had on the 100 days cycle will be the high school, Lincoln High School. And so Mr. Hoffman and team, take it away.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Well, where's your neck?
It's getting there. This is week one, trying to wean myself off the neck brace. So it's in my car. I'll probably put it on after all this. But thank you very much for asking. All right, let's see here. Get these pop in here. Got my notes and so on. So we'll cut to the chase. I'm Micah Hoffman, principal at Lincoln High School, but I'll let the people next to me introduce themselves quickly as people help me out. So we'll start with you, Mr.
Cody Nielsen, one of the associate principals.
Ben Rico, also associate principal.
Shay Israel, one of the associate principals.
So we'll just jump right in here. Our overall school goal this year was and is all Lincoln High School student subgroups will have a minimum value-added score of 3.0 in ELA and math as measured by the 25-26 report card. So I'll get into that. That's a hefty statement. We recognized at the end of last year, through last year, that we needed to do some very, very focused coordination in our academics at Lincoln High School. So we contacted the ASA Association, the Association of Wisconsin School Administrators, and enrolled in their SAIL program, which is a 2-year cohort that spends a lot of time helping develop 100-day goals and setting out processes and protocols to ensure that schools and or school districts, it's not just schools, are targeting the things they want to target. So we spent 3 days this summer in the Dells with a team of 10 people, our core department chairs, math, English, social studies, and science, and our instructional coach, a school counselor, administration, delving into our report card. And what we discovered through that whole process was that when you look at the 4 parts of the report card that we're judged upon, the growth is one of our most significant ones. None of our students are meeting the state average for growth at high school. So we said, let's target it on that and see what we can move the mark on that. So that's essentially where this overall goal came up. So during that 3 days, we spent a lot of time just digging into it of why. And in the end came up that we are judged upon our pre-ACT secure, which is the freshman and sophomore assessment that the state requires us to give, as well as the ACT, which of course all of you here, and many of you probably took at some point over your years. And so we spent a lot of time digging into the standards that are developed in those assessments. And the next slide here gives you a little bit of a snapshot of kind of what we put together. So we pulled all of our ELA and literacy standards out and figured out, much like the three wonderful elementary principals are up here, like especially when Courtney was presenting, like the kindergarten, first grade, and so on and so forth, like every standard scaffolds from different levels. The ACT is developed in a similar way, as is the pre-ACT. So we looked at all the different levels, the way they develop those questions, and said, like, where are our most common entry points to find where students need the most development and the most work. This is a chart of all the standards that we selected out of the English and literacy curriculum of the pre-ACT and the ACT. And what you'll see here is at the bottom, you can see the standards. There's a bit of an explanation of that. So SST 201, determine the need for punctuation, conjunctions, subjoined simple clauses, and so on. And we asked every department to pick a standard or standards that they're going to work on, focus on throughout the entire year. And so this is a breakdown of, you'll see like, these are each PLC. You'll see SST 201, English 9, English 10, English 11, English 12. You look at CLR 201, which is our most popular one. Because what we've done is we have asked every single teacher, no matter the subject they teach, to tackle one of these two, either in English, and we have the same thing, I didn't put it in the presentation, but we have the same thing for the math standards. So if I teach tech ed, if I teach band, if I teach social studies, or if I teach math, there's a chance that I had to pick one of these or a couple of them out of math and English. Oftentimes, the heavy lifting falls upon the English department to move the English standards, or the math department to move the math standards. And we said, we have to focus as a building, everyone pushing in the same direction. So there's not a person in the building who's not working on one or more of these standards throughout the entire year. Moving on from that, our first 100-day goal was by November 18th, which is past us. All students will have engaged in 3 common informative assessment cycles surrounding the selected ACT focus. And quite simply, that is, every PLC, every student in whatever classes, teachers will have focused in on that, say, pulling main ideas out of a text. And we wanted teachers to teach that concept to their students. Some were like, that's an easy layup for some teachers, and other ones it was like, I don't even know how to do this. So we work with them a little bit in some stages to try to help them get there, and then deliver these assessments. 3 of those assessments, take the data, analyze it, move to the next one, move to the next one, so that everybody kind of gets an understanding of like where we're falling, good or bad, on our results within those. The next couple slides kind of show you a little bit of what that was. Biology here, this is just a breakdown of their PLC's goals for the year. I don't necessarily read the whole thing, but they've got a professional practice goal, they've got a department goal, and then of course the school improvement goal on top of that. Here's a breakdown of their data. You'll see there's 2 different assessments here. There's a pre-assessment on the left and a data set for assessment number 2. And you can see, of course, the distribution of scores as it does. And you'll see, like, in the biology, they picked AF 301 sub-whole numbers for unknown quantities, which is a math standard. Point out the fact that the biology department is focusing on the math standard. Very intentional. It's designed that way. We can move on to the next one, modern U.S. history. This is their school improvement goal, and so on. And then the next slide showcases their data a little bit as well. Their goal was their standard. One of their standards was CLR 201, locate basic facts. I will say the exact same thing. We have the social studies team working on literacy and an English team.
If I could quickly interject, I happened to be in the room with the PLC team when they were discovering their most recent CFA results, specifically for that question 4, author's perspective. At the beginning of the school year, they had roughly 40% of their students that were answering those types of questions correctly. End of November, they're up to 82% of students answering those questions in that category within their ACT standard correctly. So it's cool to be in the room with them when they made that discovery, analyzing their data.
And we're not gonna lie, right? Like one of the things that occurs to me as we're developing this, right? For those of you who don't know, I was the band director at Lincoln High School for 13 years and my top band for music for 19 years. We're always trying to think about like what this looks like for your non-English and your non-math instructors to make it valid, to make it an entry point that they feel comfortable learning and understanding, and feel like they can help and push in this direction. Because sometimes, right, if I'm concerned like tonight or tomorrow night, there's an orchestra and a jazz concert, right? Most likely those teachers are really focusing in on the orchestra jazz concert, right? Yeah. Or the parade last week that isn't happening, but nonetheless, tomorrow, right? Right. So like, how do we make that valid for them to feel comfortable doing this as well as so as we look at, there's just some examples, you can certainly dig into that. This led us to our second 100-day goal. We're in that second 100 days now. We just started actually last week. And what we've done is we've developed three, so here's what's happening. Our core departments in the first 50 days here are going to be the ones we're focused on the most, with our English, our social studies, our science, and our math. We're asking them to do 3 micro goals, and they are focusing in on the same standards. Nothing has changed there. However, they're going to be, what we've done is we have presented them, I'll go to the next slide, which is the explanation slide. I'm pushing the wrong thing. Here it is. First 50 days, we divided into 3 micro windows. So what they're going to do, and this past Friday, Ben had Friday Focus, where we bring everybody together, and we reviewed and maybe taught, depending on what they were, the gradual release of responsibility teaching strategy, which is essentially I do, you do, we do, if we're going to break it down in the very most basic terms. We're asking every single teacher to use that exact strategy. The core departments will teach their specific standards, assess them using direct ACT questions. So we pulled questions from the ACT, and then they're going to do that over this 15 days. We've asked them to tell us the day they're going to do it. They're going to give the lesson. It's a very, very explicit lesson on that very specific standard. They're going to assess it very quickly after that, review the data within those 15 days, school days, and then the next 15 window, use that data to inform their next GRR, do the same thing in these 3 different windows. After that analysis, you'll see in the bottom part, we're going to spend some time with everyone across the school to scaffold that out in the next 50 days, that second half of the 100-day window. So it's very, very targeted with everyone doing the exact same thing. Before we let staff kind of forge a little bit of their own path so they can be comfortable with that. Now we're asking everybody to do the exact same thing, the exact same assessment, so we can really measure that growth in some very, very short-term windows to ensure, because that should lead us about up to when we take the pre-ACT secure and the ACT, and we feel we've topped those standards and maybe can move the mark on this. So that's our academic process and the things we're really focusing on this year. Within that, our PLCs are meeting on a regular basis. We have introduced this organizer, if you will, that we're going to start using to have some conversations with PLCs about where they are in the process within our academic goal. As you can see, there's, of course, 2 different accesses here, the awareness and so on and so forth. Again, in essence of time, I won't come over it too much, but we'll be using this to inform some conversations about analyzing where students or where staff are within their PLCs and coordination and towards the goals that we've set for the year. But those PLCs are working with some common agendas. Every day they're doing it, or every time they meet, they have the exact same expectations. They're analyzing, they're looking at data, and they're recording it in a standardized format so we can make sure that we're helping support them all the way. Next, you guys asked for a behavior goal. I'm not saying that you asked for it, but like one of the things like you wanted to present about is the behavior goal. And I'm gonna let Ben take over on this one a little bit because our biggest behavior goal for the year was the removal of cell phones from our students' hands during the school day. And maybe we could probably ask Jade how that's going to at some point. Here, so Ben, take over.
Yeah, so cell phone removal it's the easy answer because Act 42 required us, but the truth is, just like we heard from some of our elementary administrators, it comes down to engagement. engagement is a nebulous thing sometimes, but any educator will tell you that the access to those devices and the proximity within the classrooms or on those kids' hands is really the biggest barrier to getting to those points that we'd like to see. So pretty big lift of a policy change in a building our size, just for a number of different reasons, and just how kids have been socialized in this era of having those devices on them from little on up. Was a challenge for everyone involved, but it's something that our staff is very passionate about, and we believe wholeheartedly that this will create an impact. So our first 100-day goal simply was about getting, not only rolling out the new policy with great fidelity, but also creating that baseline data. We need to know where we're at so that we can work towards improving this as we move forward, not only this school year, but school years to follow. So we're looking at establishing that baseline data in the first quarter, and then we would like to have a 25% decrease in violations as we get towards the end of the school year. So far through 14 weeks of school, we can see on the left-hand side, we had upwards of 40 to 50 violations per day is where our trend line is kind of hones in at. The good news is that it's slowly but surely trending downwards. Some weeks are busier than others, as we can see on our scatter plots, but overall we're trending in the right direction. Just the table of our baseline data, what we set out to do in our first 100 days, that 35.4, that is our, when you strip everything away, that is the average violations per day. Again, some days are busier than others. We are about halfway through the second quarter, give or take a few days, but where the trend is at is we are trending right where we'd like to be for our end of year goal. We're under that 25% reduction. Not in the business of counting any chickens until they're hatched, but we're in a good spot right now. A lot can happen as we are approaching a longer school break. But things are moving in the right direction, and we're collecting the information that we need to make the tweaks that are necessary to execute tackling this policy change within our building. Engagement, like I said earlier, is a bit nebulous, but there are some results on the periphery of this that we feel are important and worth celebrating. At this point last school year, when we compare just our grade books, where we are noticing some returns that we think are directly related to the change in cell phone policy. We know that students who are achieving an A or a B in the grade books right now is up roughly 20% from this point a year ago. Students that are not passing their classes is down a little bit at 4%. And something in particular that we're proud of is some of our library media center data. Book checkouts are up 25% through the month of November. Audiobooks, ebooks are up 600%. So kids are finding that niche a little bit, which is awesome. And the collaborative nature of our library staff and our staff as a whole is also, I think, found a way to get some more cohesiveness in the midst of some of these policy changes. And classroom teachers that are engaging with library visits or utilizing our lobby resource as a learning environment is up 32% from a year ago. So these are things that are, I would argue, directly related to those cell phone changes.
Questions?
Our other principals referenced going to PLCs, and I heard Ben was able to give an example. How have you divided up all that PLC work among the four of you?
So we have departments that we oversee. So for like example, I have special ed, art, English, and so those are kind of PLCs that I'm getting into. To speak on that, it is really cool to see, like when I go into an art PLC today, they're talking about their CFAs and how they're working on like our English standards. And that's something that I've never experienced in an art PLC, and it's really cool to kind of see, and they're talking about artists of the month. So they're talking about different artists and things like that, but they're incorporating that in. So be able to coach them around that and how they can collect that data. They're obviously new to that, but they are eager. And one thing I could say, it's really cool to see a building of our size moving all in one direction. And our staff has done a really good job of embracing that because we know we're asking a lot. But to answer your question, we kind of have our PLCs broken up, and then that's how we like get into those
David?
Just a comment from an educational standpoint. I like the fact that you are starting to connect those things, because the more connections the student can make to discrete areas of their life, so-called, they learn it better. And we've got to stop doing the silo education model, which I think is a detriment to what we've been doing in our society. So kudos to you.
Yeah, you guys are doing English across the curriculum, right?
English and math.
Yeah.
Yes.
We did, at least for a while, we did writing across the curriculum with the idea that, you know, if they can clearly express their thoughts, you know, they read better, they pay more attention, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if there's a writing component to what you're doing or not.
Not as of yet, not specifically. We're more focused on some of those literacy standards, but
yeah, sure.
Certainly it's a beneficial part of it.
I can say as a former English teacher of a very, very long time, being able to read and comprehend what you're reading and to be able to discuss it helps increase your ability to write about it. And having those open discussions, whether it be in a fishbowl or a Socratic seminar or a one-on-one conferring situation with your teacher, being able to have those conversations, I think helps articulate your ability to write.
I think so too. Any other questions?
They're writing on their cell phones.
So, yeah.
Text messages and quite the methods.
Research says this works better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to our whole team for all their hard work to really focus on results and learning. And I hope you saw through this process how it connects to not only our organizational structure and our 100-day planning, but it connects to multiple pillars of it with our student achievement, student well-being, and the organizational piece. So kudos to our teams who are working really hard all across the district on those things. And I would be happy to take any questions anybody has about my written report.
Any questions on the written? I say none. Got anything else?
Good, thank you.
Good. All right. We're gonna move on to unfinished business. And
Director's report?
we have director's report. Did I miss that? You did. It's okay. Directors.
Yeah, what?
Report. Here it is. You got it? Any questions on the director's report? No? All right. So now we will move on to unfinished business.
I guess we should probably give a shout out to Miss Polly over there.
Oh, yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
Doctor.
Yeah, Dr.
Yeah. Earning your PhD, that's a big problem. Sorry, that.
It's okay. No, that's good.
It's kind of a big deal.
It's,
yes,
kind of
it
a
is.
big- All right. Give a little preface to this. At our last meeting, my concern was for this unfinished business coming up that we gave the community enough input time and opportunities for input. We had 2 public sessions, one at night, one during the day. We had online questions that they could ask and get answered. We had tonight's public input. And if I do my math correctly, we came down to about, with those opportunities to let us know how you feel, we came down to about 92 people did that. So I think the opportunity was there for people to give input onto this decision. There are still some questions that we may have. And, but before we discuss that, we have to put forward the recommendation from the facilities committee to discuss that and then vote on it if we deem we should. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, coming from the Facilities Committee, I make a motion to approve the Mantua Public School District administrative consolidation plan beginning for the 25-26 school year.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Time for discussion. Discussion on the plan.
Oh, I guess
Mr. Trask, go
I
ahead.
always have something to say, but, you know, I was at the public sessions and things like that, and I got a lot of email, much of which I responded to, partly because I want to encourage people to, like, you know, take possession of their own school system in a way. I mean, I thought it was a good sign that people were commenting and making proposals, and you know, in America, you should have the right to bitch. I thought it was a pretty healthy sign. On the other hand, being a small D Democrat, at least that much, I really think that in societies like this, in communities like this, everybody gets the opportunity to have a say, and if they have a say, then the making process tries to get as close to consensus as possible, so that it's not an us and them, it's an us, you know? And in some of the comments that were voiced at Lincoln on Monday, I thought, gee, you know, there's a bit of a ring of an us and them here. And I've tried to, like, be snotty with people that would attribute this plan to a conspiracy theory, saying that we're all people of good faith and we're really working hard to do what we think is the right thing. And I'm wondering if there's any way that we can massage the plan, the proposal, to make some concessions to people who are pretty upset, or certainly pretty passionate. I know that we can't rearrange where the schools are built. I mean, they were built basically for the baby boom, and you know, we're stuck with that. I was concerned at one point that there's only going to be really one grade school, one elementary school on the northern side of the town, and I understood that, you know, the majority of students are in Central City or on the south side of town. But the fact is that, wow, it's kind of a bit of a distortion, I think, and it probably is something that the north side people haven't been used to. Certainly with Jackson and Madison and formerly Stangl. And then I got a couple proposals from people who I responded pretty positively towards. And that proposal was to make Riverview the elementary school on the north side, and to move the 4K, et cetera, that program to Stangl. I mean, with Riverview, we'd be kind of preserving a sort of a neighborhood school thing, although that's going to be hard under any circumstances, I guess. But, you know, I know that the repair of a school like Jackson is pretty expensive, and we don't want to spend money in a foolish way. And in fact, this program here is designed to save money so that we can then really like patch up what should have been patched up some time ago. So is there any way that we can derive any kind of way of making sort of a response to people that are clearly not happy, but you know, maybe, I don't know, if we can't make everyone whole with one program. But is there any way we can kind of make some concessions? Is the Riverview proposal, does that have any wings at all?
Are you moving that?
I wanted to discuss it. I want us to discuss that.
Normally it's discussed.
But it's part of the plan was germane.
Oh, we have a motion, we're discussing. the
Yeah,
motion,
so
right?
any part of the plan's germane to.
Yeah.
I like the Riverview option as it would be changed in this proposal. To move towards a 4K full day program would be, I think, good for the district. And as I have stated on numerous occasions, I would like to go 3K. All the data shows us that if we get kids early, our programs are good and they want to stick around. So having a school that would maybe specialize in that, go back to what it kind of was as the kindergarten center, in my head is not a bad thing. My concern, and I have concerns kind of like Carrie does about the plan, that we have always had more kids on the south side of Manitowoc than the north side. As long as I've been here, and that's a long time. Used to be Wilson had about 600-700 kids. Washington had 700-800 kids. It's been that way forever. However, to have a large area of the north side of the city without a neighborhood school concerns me. So I went through and as I said, when I came in tonight, I was feeling pretty good until I started reading some numbers. And one of the handouts I got yesterday from one of our people in the building is, in the 10-year plan, we spend more money on Riverview School than we do on Jackson School, by $4 million, with repairs and what they want to do to it. One is Riverview is $14,337,850. Jackson would be $10,730,050. That was in the 10 years, the next 10 years. So I said, well, that's a long time. So I went back to the 5-year, 3 to 5 year. And I started looking at things, and one of the selling points to close Jackson was it's going to cost us $4 million to fix it. Well, in that same 5-year plan, unless something has changed, Stangl is about $3 million. So there's a difference between the two schools of 1.1 million. And in my head, I would like to know the additional cost of transportation. What's it going to cost us additionally to have to bus all the kids in town on the north side to a faraway school? I would like to know that. And not just 1 year, because it's going to go on for a few years. I would like to have that answered. I would also like to know, we are going to be renting space, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but what is that additional rental if we close down Stangl, make it an elementary, and those special programs get put in another place in town we're going to have to rent? What is that going to cost us? So you've got transportation, you got rental, and then tonight I got a phone call, and I'm not sure what the options are for the current Clark Bridge program, where that would go.
That's going to GB. That's part of that. Same rental.
Supposedly and my question is, if it's going there, that I think it fits with that. But the lease for that program, according to this person who called, goes to 2028. So in some additional years, we're going to be paying more for another space. When you start adding those things up, does it come up to an equal cost between Stangl and Jackson? And give back a neighborhood school to Manitowoc? It's a huge part of the city that would not have a school. So those are my questions on finance, because sometimes I think finance is overrated. It's the most important thing we look at when we start making decisions. I think neighborhood schools are a good thing. My concern is there's a neighborhood school in the Jackson area that people could choice their kids to. So those are my concerns and some of the reasons I am having a hard time with the program. David, I think you were first.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the neighborhood school thing. I think that was something that Manitowoc had when we had Adams, when we had Garfield, when we had Cleveland, McKinley. When we moved here, if you lived a half a mile north of where I do, my kids went to Franklin, we live over by the interstate, half a mile north, they were going to Stengel. That's a neighborhood school. We, in this district, I grew up in a district where the furthest kid away from school lived 15 miles from the one elementary school. So I think in our current day and age, I would like to start thinking about community schools. One of the powers of this proposal is we get schools that look like our community. We get kids from all different ethnicities. We get kids from socioeconomic variety. And research shows that all kids rise and your community rises when you are put together in a group of people that are different than you. And I think that's one of the beauties of what we're offering here.
So my question then to you is, we couldn't do that within the school. It would have to be done at Stengel. You couldn't do it within Jackson or somewhere else.
I guess I'd like to look at that district map, if we could pull that up, because I think that's a lot of data that went into that. If we looked at equalizing our
Right.
socioeconomic data, how are we gonna keep it the best neighborhood possible? So I don't know if somebody has that map that we can pull up.
Pull it up on there.
I think we have a handout.
Do you want me to pull it on this screen?
That's okay. I mean, if you can just hold it up. Because I think that was trying to keep the neighborhood concept, because we know you ran Riverview. You ran Riverview,
In fact,
you ran Stengel, you
one of
ran
the
Jackson.
things we did today, and I'll hand this out, is based on all the questions that we've been getting, we basically did a summary of every option that's been talked about or asked about. So we have our administrative I'm gonna hand this out. Administrative recommendation, and then alternatives. We have one box that talks about closing Madison only. We have another box that talks about closing Franklin instead of Jackson and Madison. And we have another box that talks about maintaining Riverview K-4 and creating an early learning center at Stengel. And what we do basically with this is we just break it down for you on what it would look like if we were to do these things, so you can see what the numbers would be for each of these things that I think have been brought up in our community conversations. So I'll just share this with you. It's really just reference. I'm not going to present it or anything, but you can certainly see the data for yourself. There's more details to this, but we just wanted to summarize it. And again, thanks to my team for helping me with this today. But, you know, again, our goal for this is really making sure that all of you have the information that you need to make an informed decision.
Mr. Hanson, I'm not sure where those numbers came from. Like, I've never seen that document that you just addressed, but regardless of that, I think when the community passed the referendum, the community also knew that we were going to put money into our existing buildings that we chose to keep. They would get a tremendous amount of money from that referendum, with the understanding that we were going to right-size this district. That's always been the conversation. Even 2 boards ago, that was the conversation of right-sizing this district. If you recall back into the Mr. File administration, this plan, which people have come to me and even been to my house to address, is not all that much different. The only thing that we said as a board that voted 4-3 against that plan then was to bring it to the public. And when we did that, the administration did a tremendous job of bringing all of these issues to the public. We've had numerous forums, we've had numerous things. The facilities committee did their job in the community. They all addressed all these issues. So yes, to be fiscally responsible with the money, when we right-size this district, they will receive the majority amount of money, which they should. Those are going to be our existing facilities. Jackson is a neighborhood school, I agree, but Jackson is going to lose students in the future. It probably, as we all know, may not even be a financial facility that we can invest continued money in for the next 10, 15 years. So I'm not sure where that is, and I'm not sure how it got there, but we know as a board fiscal responsibility, and 4 of us were beat up pretty bad a year and a half ago because we weren't jumping for $1 million in savings. And now the community is saying, wait a minute, you guys, you didn't choose 1 million because you wanted to go back to the public and get the public input. We did that. And now we're saving $6 million this year with annually $2 million, which surpasses what the file administration was proposing. We did it correctly this time. We listened to the people. We heard their input. I received a lot of communication, as you all did, but it was to save the neighborhood school, and I get that. I'm not sure which school we would have chosen. We would have heard the same thing from all of those facilities, and I understand that too. You got to take a look at, everybody says the north side was the academic strength. That hasn't been necessarily true for a number of years. With the Swanson and the Flaherty and the Holzman administration, Monroe School exceeded expectations for years and years and years. Now Madison and Riverview are exceeding expectation for years and years. They're doing something right. And I think that with this proposal, and I also heard from a tremendous educator from Jackson, that taking a look at the new configuration 5, 6, 7, 8 can bring a new alignment of educational services to this district. Let's face it, what we've had in the past 11, 12 years hasn't been successful. We're still at the bottom of the state, okay? Yeah. So I agree with this teacher who indicated that maybe it's time to look at some other things. So I think we did a great job of getting public input, and I think that the administration has done a wonderful job of answering every question we could possibly throw at them. So
appreciate those. When the referendum was voted on, the plan wasn't out there, so people did not know which schools were going to close. So
Can I address this?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So this document that Biff has, this is out of the CISA 10 report. So this isn't this is not our plan. This was the plan that they developed based on the data they took in. Our plan currently, which is on file, is the plan that we put out there to voters prior to the voting on the referendum. It's a document, it still lives on our website. You're right, it does still include all the schools, because at that time we weren't we didn't have these proposals. What the recommendation would allow you to do is amend that document to reinvest the $6.6 million into the schools that would continue to exist. We did out a 4-year plan on that because we only have 4 years total to spend the $25 million. So that plan was the only one that this district created outside of I'll just say this, jumbled 5 or 10 year thing that we had to have for what was the Fund 46 question that Mary had before. So really what happened there is they threw something together, they gave it to you. That is not the plan that we're using. We're using our capital improvement plan that we had passed through the Finance and Facilities Committee and then this board. So these numbers really aren't accurate.
Can I ask the question, what was the total dollar value of this? Because what you're holding, Biff, is every school getting fixed.
Right, 160. Right.
160 million. $160 million.
Right, correct.
So I feel we have to check and adjust here.
Yeah.
Because now we've put a 4-year plan, and this was a 5-year plan of $160 million. And we've gotten feedback. Why didn't we start with the high school? Why didn't we start with the middle school? And I empathize with those questions. We're getting the most feedback, quite frankly, about Jefferson. I mean, I'm sorry, Jackson.
Jackson, yeah.
We're getting the most feedback on Jackson, just looking at the data. So, sentiment. So to me, I think we're seeing a lot of, and I want to empathize with all of those Jackson parents. I was a product of schools closing as a student. So it's hard.
And I understand that. My concern is Stangl. We closed that as a grade school. And why did we do that? We opened Riverview up as a grade school. We closed Stangl because we were busing so many kids there. And there weren't a lot of neighborhood kids there. Okay? I've heard that part of the city's gonna grow. Because they ripped down the malls and they may put up housing, okay? We've heard that a lot of times because when they built Stangl, they thought that part of the city was gonna grow, and it didn't. Okay, so I don't wanna say go slow because I realize we have to make change. And it wasn't done over the last years. I just think when you have, as Jefferson is the South Side school, because of the neighborhood and the kids that go there, I just think there's nothing except the far northeast on the north side. It's a grade school. Even though you've got a solid neighborhood, if you look at the map, you're going to send a lot of those kids to Franklin, which is a good school, by bus. But you got nothing except Stangl north of the river.
The river, in my opinion, is an artificial dump.
Exactly, like Sheboygan North and Sheboygan South and Green Bay East and Green Bay West.
And Parker, Janesville, Craig. I mean, they're there to name it where it is, and it doesn't help the situation. So it's still artificial.
Artificial. It's not artificial, it's a natural.
There is a bridge.
There is a bridge.
So
I was impressed with folks who emailed me because they often said, I don't agree, but I have this solution. And I always, even as a principal, I always said, don't bring me a problem unless you got a possible idea for me. And I think our community did a great job when they were emailing us. But on the reverse side of that, or the back side of that, then I fact checked each, or I checked into each of those ideas with Lee and his team. And he kept saying, yep, we already went down that rabbit hole as a team, and here's why. Here's the impact. Here's the data, right? So I keep going back to, I don't know if the community thought that Lee and his team didn't think of all those things, but they really did. Like, he was able to show me data each time, and not like, oh, let me make that up, Mary, but we did that. When we sat in, they jokingly call it the war room, but when they sat in.
Ready. That's what it stands for.
Yeah.
We are ready.
When they sat in that war room, like, they didn't just say, well, my favorite is, it truly was going down every rabbit hole. And this handout tonight illustrates, again, some of those most frequently asked. Well, what if Riverview, not Stangl? They did their homework. They rolled up their sleeves on this, and I'm struggling with now us saying, oh, wait, what about? Now I want to change this. When I think it takes a little bit away of saying it was credible work and we trust what they did. So I'm struggling with that. I hear what you're saying, Biff. I don't want to discredit your comments. But truly, the work was done on this.
And I appreciate that. And I said that at the meeting the other night, that even though this is probably the first thing we disagreed on, I appreciate being able to talk to a superintendent and not get a look. That I'm saying
Just a
something
smile.
wrong. Yeah. But as I said, there are things that I need answers to about cost. You know, I need to know how much more is it going to cost for transportation? What's the rental going to cost us? And when all that adds up, is Stangl a better deal than leaving Jackson open? That's something that I don't have an answer to yet.
Got it.
You know, because and to be honest, I'll be very honest. that area of Manitowoc, I know very well. You know, I've served as their alderman, I've served as their county board person. Never had to make decisions this hard, but because I know those people and I know how effective that school was, I mean, that's another part of this for me. But that's why I kind of need those answers to say, I can go ahead with this because, yes, this will serve the taxpayers the best.
I thought we had a bus cost at the last.
Yeah, I can share that if
Thursdays
you'd like me to answer the transportation question. So, again, we've had multiple meetings with Brad Bus. Both Steve and Don have been great. Nathan and I met with them, and the first time I think Katie was involved in that because of the special education impact as well. So we address transportation increases once a year annually when we update our contract with Brad Bus. And so what we just wanted to know, and that's usually in the spring, what will be the impact? So what's hard is that we will see a projected increase of about $300,000 in transportation, but it doesn't have anything to do with consolidation. It has to do with the fact that we've proposed start and end times of our school buildings related to educational research instead of what's most convenient for the bus company to do. So currently we use a concept, double routes for each of these schools. We would move to a concept of a single route, which does require more buses on the road and more drivers, which is that cost. We ran that through with Mr. Milky, and we were comfortable knowing that, again, we're trying to make a whole lot of decisions that align with our strategic vision, up to and including when we start kids with their learning. And this just coincides with that. So what we had basically said is, we didn't include the cost with this because we were told directly from the bus company that the increase had nothing to do with the consolidation. In fact, we would probably see a decrease potentially, or at least stay the same, if we kept our start and end times the same, because the double routes and the things would still happen. And so that was basically the transportation piece of that. We would use the same system that we have now with the routes and picking up kids in their assigned areas. And he also indicated that he did not expect an increased amount of time for students riding the bus, based on what the routes would be with the proposed map. And then the rental question that you asked too, Bill. And Nathan, you may have to help me on the dollar amount at GB.
$33,000 a year.
Okay.
For
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we thought on that, Biff, was, so if you're taking the programming out of the building and you're putting it there, what costs to run that now? And okay, so you have custodial, you have, all those things. What you're basically getting is value on having them there without having to hire a custodian, for example. So you even look at that one position of transferring that service to that area, it's now taken care of in the rental. The other piece of it is we have a program with our special education program at the Clark Bridge Hall, which we currently also pay for.
Right.
So the idea would be if we could get them all there, then we would eliminate that bill. And in terms of the lease, it does, I read the lease.
Yeah.
The lease does allow us to end the agreement, but it needs to be mutual.
Yes.
Correct.
And that may be the issue.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had those conversations yet, but yeah. Other discussion, Carrie.
I'll just make one more comment, and I'm it may be I'm all satisfied with what's coming up. I'm a person that's very much involved in looking at the values that go into making policies, and that one of my reflections as a historian is that the United States and certainly Manitowoc, where it's always a big issue. Most decisions are made for economic and financial reasons, which in many cases, short changes the values that apply to society and culture. And that I'd like us to be a kind of a whole place, you know, I'd like us to think in terms of like, well, what are the societal impacts of this? I know we're going to spend a little more money on this, or we're not, you know, or we, you know, and it's hard to argue against being tight-fisted in a district that's this underfunded. But I'd like to be satisfied that we're also thinking not just of how much the buses are going to cost and how much we're going to save on closing down Madison, which I feel bad personally about, and really look at the human social dimensions of the implications of this plan. And if we're satisfied that we're doing both, that we're doing guns and butter, and that society is going to be okay, and people are going to adjust, and the kids are going to be healthy and happy, and learn even better, I think then I would vote, you know, my values on that. My values are that's where I put my emphasis.
David? Well, I think that's where this plan is going. A friend of mine, Steve Gibson, said ideal would be to have a kindergarten building, a first grade building, a second grade building, so you're focused exactly on that. Let's do that. But here, when we do this, we're putting in power place the PLCs, where you've got more than one teacher teaching a class in every building. We were just listening to how important that is. We can't control what we can't control, but we can control that. And that gives us more power. That's the second most impactful thing, having a committed group of teachers. We will put those 4 buildings together and those kids are going to learn. A lot of people that contacted me talked about the transition challenges, which is, I think, one of the things that this school district does better than other districts that I've seen, moving from building to building. And if we start with kids getting all together in 5th grade, that removes that challenge going into 7th grade. Kids aren't scared about going to a new building. They're scared about meeting new people, as most adults are. Right? Yeah. I walk in Fleet Farm, I say good morning, and people don't even make eye contact, and it's people that are older than me. So you got kids that are together. I know. You put those kids together in 5th grade, they're together until 12th grade. That's a powerful thing for a community this size. The opportunities that the kids will get in the 7th and 8th grade situation that's actually running like a true middle school, that will only go gangbusters when they start getting excited about things they never even knew they were going to love. And I think that is great for kids. I think it's going to be great for our community when we do that, as we commit to community schools.
I'm really glad you're on the board.
I get passionate, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Chris. Thank you. Let me start with an apology. I'm trying to do 5 minutes. Please excuse the length of these remarks. Before I begin, I wish to state explicitly these are my remarks, my thinking, not argument. I do not offer them up seeking counterpoint. The current conundrum requires the district to address a daunting, complicated set of issues. A simple cost versus benefits analysis is hardly sufficient. I have broken the matter down into 4 frameworks from which the matter and the proposed resolution may be viewed. Not the only way to do it. It's the way I'm doing it. And these 4 frameworks are financial, educational, future, and ownership. Financially, there are levies and their limits, obligations, fixed asset needs, recurring costs, and the reprehensibly unreliable state and federal financial aids. As board members, we have an inescapable fiduciary duty. We are required to treat tax dollars as if they were our own. In fact, some of those dollars actually are our own, minus 20% that's skimmed off for vouchers. And we generally work to be good stewards of these funds. This proposal, indeed, any restructuring, will have a sizable effect on how our local and state dollars are spent. And we need to fully understand how the plan would affect us as a district and its taxpayers financially not just for the next couple years, but for decades to come. We have a clear understanding of the short term, the next 2 to 5 years, with the implications of this plan. How well it will work and what referendums will be required beyond that is absolutely unclear. We will surely need more money than the current structure grants us, but how much is not known. However, even with this drawback, if you are making the decision based on money, a vote in favor makes sense. Educational efficacy is another crucial factor to consider. We may save money, but will we also weaken education? As we have all seen, past boards have even found ways to spend more money and get worse results. So, educationally and organizationally, there are a lot of unanswered questions here. Let's start by looking at grade schools. It's not news to anyone that I like neighborhood schools. There's a lot of value in the sense of community that neighborhood schools provide, perhaps even build. But those non-material values come at a very real cost. My greatest concern with the move to 4 megaplex schools is that it is a change that we can neither easily nor quickly reverse. I know we are not a big city, but we are still a city. We're the 25th largest metropolitan area in the state. So this ruralification of our elementary schools, is that really the best way to go? To date, no one has convinced me that we understand what made Madison our smallest school and, per the HTR, the best elementary school in the county, so successful, or that we can transfer that success when we move its teachers, students, and families to another building as part of something bigger. Maybe the megaplex grade schools will be effective. We've had larger schools. Did they provide better outcomes? We've had smaller schools. We know what they produced. It must be acknowledged that this is an experiment. Personally, I like the idea of the 5, 6, and the 7, 8 schools, but that's because I've seen the 7, 8 schools, and that I don't like. So for those who are concerned about the transitions from school to school, a single intermediate school with a 5, 6 and a 7, 8 as 2 separate wings where they never could meet could work very well, and would even have the extra benefit of making subject advancement for particular areas of study so much easier. As enrollment continues to decline, a single building for all 4 grades truly seems inevitable. Now, everyone I've spoken to says, what about the high school? You really got to do something about that high school. And I must here recognize member Lottie Blonick, who brought that up a month ago, and I admit I was far too dismissive at the time. So it only makes sense to ask what that plan with that building is that is almost literally coming down around our students' ears. I won't spend too much time on Future Ready, as all the other areas really touch on the reality that this plan is primarily focused on what we do next year and does not roll out a vision of our district in 5, 10, or 15 to 20 years and beyond. But last, and to me most important, is the question of ownership. These aren't my schools. And not just because you haven't named one for me yet. I hold out hope. These schools belong to all of us. And we, as a community, ought to decide what to do. Members of this board can and will maintain that they were elected to make this decision for everyone. Personally, I'm not as certain. We've had an open explanation and discussion of the proposal. We've had a fairly fulsome response from the public on this plan, and much of that response is concerned. To my fellow board members, I'm sure that each of you will vote in doing what you see as right. I personally am frustrated that we, the board, were not given a range of options to choose from to create the final plan ourselves, because that's exactly what I have been asking for since the closing of any schools was first brought up way back in the dark ages of previous school administrations. And why I asked for board discussions before any plan was formalized and brought forward. When this passes, as I expect it shall, for there is much in the plan to like, I will move that the proposed plan be brought to referendum on the next election. People have asked us to hear them when they say they will gladly pay to keep their neighborhood schools. People have asked us to listen to them when they say, let's solve the high school problem first. A referendum truly tells us if the proposed plan is the way the electorate thinks we should go. Representing the households of the MPSD is my top priority. I believe the best way to do that in this case is quite simply to ask you at the ballot box what we as a community should do. I can't support acting with this much uncertainty, but I can support a ballot initiative that would hear from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abel. Anybody else?
I call the question.
We're gonna call for the question. Anybody other discussion or call? Do I have a?
One last comment. Are there more benefits than drawbacks to the current plan? It's not the home, but the house that is lived there. Those are two things that I thought most about on these sleepless nights. I didn't write up a whole thing, but I have family, friends, neighbors impacted, providing that feedback. Are there more benefits than drawbacks?
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion to call for the question, not having anything to do with the discussion. I just want to thank you as the board for having this discussion, and no matter how this goes, I respect each and every one of you for your opinions. And I say that because we need that. Well, you too. Okay. So we have a vote to call the question, I guess. Let's do a roll call. Can we do that?
Sure. You can do it any way you want. You're the president.
Do that. It's an important decision. People need to know where we are.
Christopher Abel,
No.
David Bowman,
Aye.
Biff Hansen,
No.
Ann Holson. Aye. Mary Lofi Blanik. Aye. Keith Shaw.
Aye.
Carrie Trask.
Nay.
It's 4-3.
4-3.
Okay, it passes. Mr. Abel.
Move to place the proposal on referendum.
Let's see.
Do we have a second to that? Do we have a second to that?
Can I ask a third time? I saw that coming too, sir. Don't worry.
Okay.
I've been playing this game a long
A
time.
question you can put on the ballot.
First, we'd have to have a discussion about that after I get a second. If you want a second for discussion, we can do that.
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is what makes serving on a board fun. It's the hardest decision I made in 28 years. So we go on to new business.
We'll all do this.
Yes, yes, we will. New business, the district report card overview from the curriculum committee.
Okay, let me find the minutes here.
Honestly.
I don't, where do I find it in the minutes?
I think that, as we discussed in the committee meeting, I think the point here was that we really just wanted to highlight that this occurred because some members weren't there, and we wanted to give an opportunity in the open session for people to ask questions if they had any on the report that was given. Because we wanted to include it in on this agenda. Yeah.
So I guess, does anybody have any questions about the report? No questions. Okay.
No questions?
All right, okay.
I have snide remarks, but I'll save them for the internet.
26, 27 calendar. Personnel Policy Committee.
Yeah, the policy committee voted in favor of the proposal. There's been some tinkering with it since then, which is, I think, has improved the schedule. I know there are some people out there in the community that aren't ecstatic about it, but I think, one of the concerns was the early release on Wednesdays. But in talking to Lee today, I talked to Stacy too about, is there a way that we could, facilitate some childcare there? And I guess we already do that. And the childcare that we have, among other things, the Girls and Boys Club, or the Boys and Girls Club, whatever it is, is one of our tools on that. And that parents won't be just left like, oh my God, what am I going to do at 2 o'clock on every Wednesday? I think that we cover them on that. I think there was some concern about, the high school people getting out. The high school is getting out at 4:01, and it's not that late. I think it's 3:30. So I think the stuff that's happened since the committee looked at it has made the proposal better, and therefore I'm assuming that the committee members would continue to be supportive of that. To recommend that we accept that. Yeah.
With that, Carrie, there's local, Two Rivers did the same thing with the Wednesday afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken with parents who have lived through that, and it actually does end up working okay with their schedule. It's become habit, like this whole change we just voted on. It's hard, but I think it has seen Two Rivers DPI scores also went up because they're doing these things with their
PLCs.
Yeah, that's right.
that we just got the presentation on. So I feel, even though this came up at us, the calendar question came in, even though it is separate from the vote we just took, I feel that is something that as parents and teachers, it's something that we can rally around and adjust to.
Personally, I think that there's a lot of benefit for the student, certainly for the teachers.
Students.
Short, getting out earlier not late in June, but earlier than that.
Keith?
Yeah.
Along with Two Rivers, our neighboring school district, Sheboygan, has done that for years and years and years ago, even when I worked there. The Wednesdays were sacred, but the district had a very specific rule as to what those Wednesdays were to be. The first Wednesday was strictly building. The second Wednesday was department. The third Wednesday was district reading, and the fourth Wednesday was TLC or PLC, what we called it. And they were gospel. They were never to be. You couldn't change that for anything, or you messed with Dr. Longo if you tried to change that. But that was a strict rule, and it has worked for that district for many, many years. But I guess I look at our school calendar, and it still seems, I'm not understanding why there's no unification within the county. And I can't, I have believed HR directors saying that we have got all these minutes that we are down in our minutes rule. That's why we need more time. But the rest of the districts can't be down in their minutes if they start school later than we do, and they get out of school later than we do, and they have Wednesday afternoons and all that kind of stuff. We can't be so far off in our minutes and the rest of the districts not in compliance with state law. It just it hasn't made sense for years to me why we start later or earlier and end up graduating so late in the year. If these Wednesdays take away the amount of time that our kids are missing Friday afternoon or a Monday because of in-service days and can shorten or do something with that calendar, I'm all for it. Maybe I'm being too simplistic, but I don't understand why Two Rivers, Reedsville, Valdez, and Michigan all can be on the same schedule and we're the odd duck out. I just don't get it. I don't understand why there can't be some uniformity. Again, maybe I'm looking at it simplistically, but nobody's ever been able to explain it.
Is there any plan to help families, parents come up with coverage for their child?
Yeah.
When, I mean, I'm sure high school is probably okay and maybe middle school. But I mean, is there anything from the district to get them information on?
Yeah, so I serve on the Boys and Girls Club board as well. And so I've been in contact with Connor and Callie there and I brought this to them to say, like, if we do these early release Wednesdays, are you gonna be able to support? Would you still be able to transport from schools? So they've made a commitment that they're gonna be able to service kids every Wednesday till 5:30. So they would pick them up at the school when school's released, they would get them there, and then they would feed them, I think they feed them dinner, we'd feed them lunch that day. And then, when we talk about the change with Riverview, moving to a 4K and then having a daycare partner, I think that's another avenue that if parents don't want to send their kids to the Boys and Girls Club, we can partner with that daycare provider. This year, I can't speak to the exact numbers, Heidi can probably chime in. I know we've provided some support, and I think those numbers have been very low attended with what we would say is our support for wraparound care.
My concern is just that, I'm sure as in Rivers, people found, who they wanted their kids to go to, but I want to make sure that, the first couple times, we're going to have kids that we need help finding a after. So just so we give them some options and let them know.
Do we have a motion on this yet? We're having a lot of
Yeah, we do.
discussion.
The committee, you don't have to, you don't.
They just wanted to inform us.
Okay.
We recommend, the committee recommended it.
But there,
And do we have to vote on it?
Yeah, but I think, was there a second?
Second.
I don't know, do you need that?
Yes.
We do it out of it.
You're bringing it forward, Sam.
Oh, yeah, we're bringing it.
Okay. So you're moving and you will second.
I guess I'm very willing to try this for 1 year. But I want to know that we're getting a return on investment. So we keep saying, we think the scores are gonna go up, and we think this, and we think that. But I really want some data, and I don't want to wait until this point next year, but more immediately to see that time is being well spent, and we're getting that return.
Yeah, good point. Any other discussion before we vote? Chris?
2 questions. So I'm just going to ask them
Yeah.
directly to you,
Absolutely.
Ms. Opal. First question, am I wrong in assuming that by making these changes, we're fixing one of the hinky things we ran into the last few years, where the number of hours at the grade schools that have put in and the number of hours at the high school, minutes. Anyway, the amount of time put in at the grade schools, the amount of time required put in at the high schools are different enough that when we get into a snow day, we can go, well, we could let all these schools not have to be here to make it up, but this school needs the time. By doing this, that solves that, doesn't it?
So I've built in a weather day for the whole district, and I've built in enough additional hours that if we had another snow day, all buildings, 4K 12, would have enough time built in that we would not have to make up a second day if needed.
Okay.
Yep.
That was the one question, and the second question has now fallen out of my head. Lucky you. I'll answer you later when I
Any other discussion on this?
It seems to Keith's point, there's some value to Lee talking to some other superintendents.
Countywide.
I remember. May I? I remembered my question.
Okay.
Did we have any discussions with the union on this calendar?
We did share it at Meet and Confer with the union and got feedback on it, and I would say that the feedback has been very well received by teachers. I think especially our elementary teachers are very excited to have the idea of uninterrupted time to collaborate around data and assessment and not have to try to cram that in when kids are going off to Phi-Ed.
Yeah, in case somebody has a breakdown music class.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
But I would say that our teachers have been very supportive, and everyone that has talked to me has said that they're excited about the calendar. They're also excited about having graduation on June 4th, not on like June 12th.
When it's a lot hotter.
Right. That week makes a difference.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And it passes. There's the early retirement notice from the same committee.
Yes, we recommend that, early retirement notice, I move that it as a motion, I guess.
Second.
Second. Seems kind of odd. Do we have to do that?
I thought we just, if the committees
We
recommend.
We have been.
We have?
You can do that.
Okay.
We should, on a committee, we should.
Vote on this?
Yeah, you should, because there's bonus money being spent, so it's only appropriate.
Oh, okay. All right, discussion on this? Chris?
I have one easy question. Is this bonus in this early retirement notice, is that retroactive, say like 5 years?
No.
5 years exactly? Because my principal knows that I met that deadline.
You did meet the deadline. I can confirm that, but we do not go back 5 years.
Any other meaningful discussion on this
I
issue?
just, you know, when we talked about it, it was professional staff, and it's so been noted that it's also support staff as well.
Yep.
I think my concern is hearing from, again, the community. There was a lot of misinformation related to this notification that I want to retire. Just quite the urban legends grew quickly out there in our community that were not accurate. And again, all Stacy's asking for is, can you just let me know early?
Yeah.
Don't tell me in July or August when I'm scrambling to find teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I commend her effort and support this retirement. I keep going back to that retirement party at the Capitol Civic Center last spring, and there were at least 12 to 15 people on the stage, more than that. And that consolidation plan, what came up was, oh, you're getting rid of 12 teachers. No, I mean, naturally through attrition, retirement each year, that's about what we lose.
Yeah.
And the goal is to keep our teachers whole as much as possible. The support staff one's gonna be a little trickier, I think. But kudos to considering also offering them a bonus as well. So thank you, Stacy. I just want to make that comment before we vote.
How many do we anticipate are going to take this? I know crystal ball, we don't have it like all the discussions we had this evening. We hope we make the best decision.
Yeah, I pulled a report from our management system to see how many people would meet the criteria of 55 or older. And there's a good handful of folks, and some of those folks on that list, I'm like, yep, I've heard their name. But some other people, especially some of our support staff, have said like, I can't go at 55, I want to work till I'm 65. So I don't have a number that I know off the top of my head, but when Nathan and I talked about like what would be the biggest number possible, and is that something we could afford? And Nathan felt very confident that we would be able to, if every single person that was eligible went for it, that we'd be okay.
Yes, Chris.
If I might add on and answer that question. Generally, when you look at the personnel reports year over year, it's about 3 to 5 people generally notify us before the official window that they're leaving the district. So maybe it would double. I mean, that's not a real easy decision for people to make. And that's a fairly early time to be making it this time.
Well, even to get their WRS meeting.
Right.
Confirm that they can do it, so.
Right. That's a last minute deal.
Yes. Got a motion and a second to accept. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Accept it. HR restructuring.
Yeah, we also, the Personnel and Policy Committee recommended get an affirmative from the board. So I'll make it as a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Discussion on this? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. And it passes. And one last one from our committee, CISA 7. Teacher Development Center.
Right. It's a contract. I'm sure you've looked at it. We approved this too. I mean, it's a good way to handle the licensure issue that we have. Therefore we encourage a positive vote on it.
Motion and a second? Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion on this CISA 7 program? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Other business. You received the WASB.
Oh, yeah. I've looked this stuff over. I mean, I don't have to vote on any of this stuff until January. And I've looked over the resolutions and I haven't really, these are the ones I've said, yes, I'll vote yes for. Other resolutions, which I think I need some advice and insight on. Here, just take it. And just one that I thought, I don't know, I don't think that's such a great idea. But, I'm eager to get your advice and your perspective on all of these. So when you have the time, look over the packet. We can talk about this at the next meeting in January. But, if you want to talk to me, just give me a call or, stop me in the hall or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, most of them are, I don't know how effective this lobbying is, but it puts us on record of what we kind of stand for.
So do you have concerns? Get a hold of Carrie. Anything else in the packet? Remarks from the board president. I've said enough tonight. So we will move on to the future dates. Do we need a meeting or not?
Yeah, the regular committee meeting, or special, no.
No special.
No
meeting.
special.
In December?
No, we're
We
good
don't
for
need one.
December, but the committee meeting's on their normal slate of that first.
Week in January.
Yes.
Yeah.
What date is that in January?
Let me pull that up.
January 6th.
That's it.
January 6th?
Yep.
It's a Tuesday.
Then there's an opportunity to have breakfast with Santa at Franklin this Saturday.
Yeah.
The board has been invited and it's been nice.
My Christmas present to all of you is no special meeting, second meeting this month.
So January.
We will be going into closed session. So I think what we'll do is we'll vote to go into closed session, but we'll take about a 10-minute break. And that'll give you time to just stretch your legs and recover from the rest of what we did tonight. So we're going to convene a closed session to consider the following matters: employment and promotion, compensation, performance evaluations of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction, exercises responsibility pursuant to section 1958. 1, parentheses C's of the Wisconsin statutes. We will be doing superintendent evaluation and 26, 27 administrative staffing strategies. Those strategies will come first, and then we'll do the superintendent part. So Lee can leave, but he'll take us through that. So I expect you back here by 8. Oh, I'm sorry.
I need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
Do we want to go into closed session after we go back?
Yeah, that's 6.
Okay.
That probably makes more sense.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're in closed session walking the hall. Let's get back here by 8:35.
Support number 2.